Sir,
All right. Boom. Episode two. How
let's
we
get it,
feeling?
baby.
Yes,
We're
sir.
back.
Yes,
How you
sir.
doing, Brad?
We're good. We're good. Um, so this episode is gonna look a little differently than our last two. Um, I think we're gonna have to get used to this format a little bit when I go to Austin. But um, Rose is in Arizona right now. He never really told me what he was there for, but
I'm
uh,
here for a wedding.
oh
Dude, it's
yeah,
like
there we go.
it's
Yeah.
weird. It's like that. It's kind of like that time of year. Just people coming down for what? Like all my homies are getting married from high school and stuff. So just kind of like trying to come down to the ones I can to support. So yeah, it's been a crazy time of year. And you're going to Austin. So how are you feeling about that, bro? Like where you at with that? How do you feel?
Uh, we're good. We're still looking for a few opportunities out there. I'm going out there in actually 2 weeks for my birthday to look for a new apartment. So I'm excited about that. That's big time. But yeah, I'm just more so focused on this and just giving sauce to the guys watching this. Shout out to you guys, the first few subscribers who are truly tuned in. Exciting stuff coming up. But what do you want to talk about today? What are you thinking?
Yeah, Brad and I were kind of thinking, we felt like because we're kind of new to this, like we started up, a few months ago, and a primary, our audience here, a lot of you are people who are starting up your own startups, kind of, attacking your dream, whatever it may be. And we felt like one of the biggest challenges for our generation now that are entering this phase of their startup career, whatever it is, like that fear of like going all in and like the
Hmm.
vulnerability, navigating through, you know, kind of imposter syndrome you feel, like how others may think of you, like just the different feelings you feel of fear and anxiety when you're going all in on a business or whatever it may be. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today and how we've both felt this fear. Like it's something that I think every entrepreneur honestly has felt it. And it's
Yeah.
probably the first fear they all overcome, in my opinion.
We're
Like
probably still
I
going
think
through it now,
yeah,
in my opinion.
exactly
Yeah.
right. Like some of these guys, I think probably could be making over 2 million in revenue, but they still feel that, because for whatever reasons, I think it's a lot of it comes from how you're grown up, and I mean, it's just how we are. We're social humans. We uh, unfortunately care a lot about what other people think of us, and so it's something you have to learn to navigate and overcome, in this journey. So, Brad, I want to ask you. I'm gonna kind of throw out a few questions to you, kind of your thoughts on these, but.
Yeah.
When do you think was the first time, like during this process of us starting first pitch, that you like didn't really feel qualified and like navigating that part of it?
Um, I think there's two parts to this. And I think they're both kind of ongoing now, and they might go like this for a little bit until we really reach like true success. Um, I think the first part of that would be some of the startups that I've tried in the past. And I thought at first this was kind of more of like a passion project. Where I was like, this is cool. Me and Rose are working on it. It's gonna be one of those other cool,
Yeah.
I guess, projects that eventually fizzles out. Um, but then once we started getting those interviews and those first few emails out and the people who actually wanted to interview with us, I think that's when I truly thought like, oh wow, this is like something that people are actually interested in and people actually want and would actually watch. Um, so I think that's one of the seeds that first kind of planted inside of my head. And then once we started going on Miro and started working on everything, then I was like, okay, well, like now we have to ball out, essentially. Um,
100%. No, I,
I
I was
think
gonna say, no, yo,
go for it.
yo.
No, you go for
No,
it,
I
go
was
for it.
gonna say, I just want to add on that because I remember one of our first interviews we did, same thing. I like didn't feel qualified. I was like, what are we doing? Like, the people even watch this? We kind of
Yeah.
started interviewing without even knowing like if there's any customer validation there, like if
Hmm.
anybody would actually care about this. And I remember one of the first founders we interviewed, like probably the third one, he was like, "Yeah, this is dope. Like I love this type of
Yeah.
content. Like I would totally watch this." And just that one phrase, that one statement from a random guy we interviewed was enough for me to be like, "Okay, like we can actually go on." I think it just takes like one person to tell you that your product or service could and will work, right?
Right.
Like And it can't be a friend, it can't be a mom, like it has to be a stranger, right? Because then you know, like, wait, this product, service, this platform we're putting out actually
Hmm.
could benefit
It's
someone.
validated at that point. Yeah. Yeah. To answer the second part, I think it was now this is the part that's kind of like present now, but how family kind of
Mhm.
thinks about what you're doing and their opinions on it, you know? And it's one of those things where it's like no matter what you do, your parents are kind of they're gonna look at you from a child standpoint because
Yeah.
obviously they're you're their child. And you know, you eventually want it to get past the point of, oh son, that's so cool that you're working on it. To a point where it's like, wow, like, he actually did that. Like he actually put his blood, sweat, and tears into this project and, made it work. And, I think that would be such a surreal moment for my parents as well, where I could show them like we're making their yearly salary in a month,
Mhm.
and show them like, wow, that's crazy. That's unheard of from especially from their generation. So that would be something really cool. It's not really the money thing for me. It's more of like I guess a high score achievement that I want to show them where it's like, this is possible. I'm gonna do it because I said so.
100%. No, I totally agree. And that's important to realize and know. And this goes out to anybody who may be experiencing the same challenge. If your parents have kind of looked at you and your things you're pursuing, you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. They'll often come off encouraging, but also Brian and I have talked about this before where they kind of have this undertone, this little like you can tell
Yeah.
behind their words that they don't fully buy it, they don't fully believe it, and they're kind of worried, right? And Brad's right, like a lot of it comes from them innately being parents, they have to protect their children, right? Like they're afraid for you to go all out. It's like exploring the world because they're afraid like something can come your way, right? And you can fall off and whatever that looks like. But I think one thing viewers need to understand if you're trying to start up your own dream, start up your own startup, whatever it is, that our parents came from a generation where, they were taught by their parents that like, hey, you need to go into college, get a 4-year degree, become a lawyer, doctor, or whatever it is, right? Like that's kind of what they were raised into. And you hear a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs talk about that. Like their parents, like that's the mindset they have. It's like if you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about that. It's kind of like his whole premise. The first half is like his poor dad talks about like how you need to get a degree, you need to like get a job and like live this system. And I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot of stability that comes with it. But it's like if you want to pursue your dream and your startup, like that's just not the route you take. And you have to be willing to go all in on something and just understand that your parents may not understand that because that's not like what they were taught. But because of social media, because of our economy nowadays, because of the resources we have, it's actually you're way more likely to succeed now and like starting up something your own personal brand than you were, 30 years ago. And so I honestly think that you're taking more risk on yourself by not going all in on your own startup now than you would be just going to college and like having a more like stable life. And I also want to clarify, I'm not like anti-college. I love college to death, and I'm gonna finish my degree here soon. Brad got his degree, so I'm actually very pro college. I'm just trying to compare and like show that there's a difference between like living the system and then also going all in on something that you want to.
I completely agree. Um, so what would you think? Why do you think this happens to founders specifically, or people who are trying to get out of the typical 9 to 5, trying to stray away from it? What would you say stems or like what do you think
Yeah.
births that, I guess?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons. One of them is definitely like the imposter syndrome they feel. It it's interesting because if you're a founder and you are going into like let's say an industry or you're going into something that isn't stabilized, doesn't have stability, right? You feel like you're an imposter entering that. And the people you'll meet along the way, there's just so much uncomfort involved with it that because of the volume of uncomfort and like that imposter syndrome you experience, and it's not just imposter syndrome, it's so many different other types of syndromes, right? You're just feeling the stress, the anxiety, the fear, like because there's so much uncomfort involved, people think that like it's just not gonna work out, it's just not gonna happen. And so that's why a lot of people don't believe in you when you're first starting because they probably try to start up something themselves and they like experience that fear, that anxiety, and they just couldn't keep going through with it, right? So I wouldn't take like the people who may not fully believe in you as like take it with a grain of salt because I think they just see that it's just such a hard road and hard path, especially mentally, that like it's hard for them to buy it, right? And so I think that's kind of what happens and you're kind of you it's just there's so much unknown, right? It's just you're like you're navigating unknown uncertainty
Mhm.
like basically everything that like gives us comfort in life, you know. And so I don't know, Brad, what do you think about that though? Like what has helped you or like what do you think could help founders navigate like that uncertainty, the unknown, the uncomfort like they may experience in the beginning stages?
I think that kind of stems from us as kids growing up, you know, school, a year after another, up until the end of college. You know, we're in school practically our entire life. And I think we're just so used to being told what to do and giving like an instruction manual. And with entrepreneurship, there's not a roadmap. There's no golden brick road that shows like exactly what we need to do, how long we should be doing it. Um, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And that's a normal feeling. That's a feeling that me and Rose are currently experiencing. You know, as much as it's fun to say, like, it's business is fun to build. Obviously, scaling a business is very fun, but a lot of people don't see the backside of that. They only see the trophy. They only see um you making it at the top, but they don't see that back end work. And obviously there's no copy paste format for every business because every business is going to be so different. And that's what makes entrepreneurship so beautiful is because there's not like some typical 9 to 5 format that you must follow in order to get from point A to point B. It's whatever you want that road to look like from point A to point B. And I think that's what founders need to realize is that it's gonna be okay. Like you're gonna make
Yeah.
your own path. You're gonna do it. You more so just have to hold yourself accountable. I think that's
Mhm.
that's what a lot of like founders lack is accountability and wanting to they want to find something to complain about and say, the 9 to 5 is it's taking too much of my time.
Yeah.
Or this is too hard, or I don't have enough money for this, to make themselves feel better, and then they get to a point where they're stuck, and then they eventually walk away from the project that they're working on. So,
Yeah, I agree. I love your point on accountability. It reminded me of a really interesting story about Elon Musk. If so, for anybody out there, you guys should read the like biography or not biography, but the auto or the just kind of the story about Elon Musk and kind of his life experiences and stories by Walter Isaacson. It's a really good book. And in the beginning parts, it talks about how Elon like he had a vision for something. He had a dream. It was very specific. Like I want to put rockets in space. Like that was like his thing, like his dream. And again, like I don't think he had it all figured out right at the beginning, right? But he knew just to take steps, right? Just to act. And he would work like 100 hours a week, like insane hours, just because he believed in this one dream.
mm,
And now you look at him, he's the wealthiest person on the earth right now. And so it's like I think founders need to understand there's two very important takeaways from what you said, Brad. The first is we don't have it all figured out at the beginning. No one does. Like that's part of the experience of entrepreneurship. You just
mhm,
have to go in knowing you're not gonna have it all figured out. And the second part is take accountability for everything you do. Like you said, work extra hours if you need to, sacrifice where you need to. And as you do that, it'll actually create confidence for you as you go forward. It's been interesting as we've interviewed a lot of these founders. One of the questions we like to ask is like kind of like their story and if they had to give one piece of advice for other founders wanting to start
mhm,
up a lot of it often comes right back to this. It's you're not gonna have it all figured out in the beginning. Just start going, just start doing. Like that we cannot stress that enough. And I think one of the important part of this that comes on later on is the pivoting, right? And
mhm.
Brad, like I feel like how to pivot really well, and as we've gone forward right now. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, how does an entrepreneur go all in, and then what's the experience like of learning how to pivot and try something new, right? Just to keep momentum going.
Well, it's entrepreneurship, it's a lonely game, you know?
Mhm.
It's a very lonely game. You're doing this yourself because not, I feel like, uh, especially being in like a friend group, everyone's doing their own thing, whether it's trying to become a doctor or something in finance, whatever. And they kind of have a clear-cut path for themselves. But with entrepreneurship, you don't get any external validation necessarily. You don't know if you're doing the right thing. Um, you have to kind of believe it before the world does. And that's kind of the first part of it is almost an unrealistic form of self-belief and
Mhm.
confidence in yourself. I think you kind of have to get to that point before you want to pivot, because if you keep wanting to pivot and pivot and pivot, you kind of have to find the fine line between pivoting and quitting, because there's a huge difference between both.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I think once you get that self-belief that you could actually accomplish something and do it and move forward with it as long as you're living and breathing, essentially, then you'll kind of know how to do these small scale pivots where it's like you're not necessarily changing your whole business model necessarily, but you're moving from each small block. You're moving one small block to another part of your business where you think it would fit a lot better. Um, and I think with me and you, we've done that pretty well. I mean, we started what, November, I want to say?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, November. And we've been going from like different platforms. Like we've been using Miro and then Milanote, and just constructing all these different formats for our social media content, whether that's carousels, long form, figuring out like what we need to do. Then we moved from Notion to like I think Notion, and then what else?
Yeah.
I feel like there was one more. Um,
I don't know. We used a lot though, for sure.
yeah, and that's kind of it's sporadic, but that's
Hmm.
okay because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's got to be sporadic. It's not linear. It's going to be very exponential. And you're going to have these weird waves. You got to think about it like as a roller coaster. And you're gonna have there's like a graph to this where you start at kind of like point zero on the XY graph where
Hmm.
you kind of have like this, the dopamine talks, whether that's with the co-founder or with yourself, where it's like, look at this cool thing that I want to do. And then you go to, I think it's uninformed optimism, where it's like you,
Hmm.
you still have optimism about what you want to do, but you don't know exactly what it's going to take quite yet. And then you get to this middle point where it's like you realize how much work it's going to truly take to get to that point. And then the hardest part where a lot of these entrepreneurs quit and don't get past is the valley of despair. And in the valley of despair is where you don't see results for like months or maybe even a year. And you're like, should I quit this? Should I pivot to something else? Or should I keep going? And sometimes we want to get that external validation from people who don't truly understand what you're doing because you've been in the mud in the trenches for so long. Um, that you really don't know where else to go because it's only you who understands your business. So you have to have conversations with yourself and understand like, this may or may not be worth it anymore. And this is wasting my time. And if you could sit in that and truly believe that you're going to get past that point of hardship, then you get into informed optimism where you're truly making money or getting views to your startup, or your startup starting to monetize itself, or a lot of people are starting to use your app or whatever you may be working on. And that is the point where you start seeing that exponential growth. And so I think the valley of despair is that point where you kind of decide where you should truly pivot or not, but you have to decide that for yourself.
Definitely. And I think one thing that's helped us kind of navigate the valley of despair a little bit, because I think we're honestly still in it right now in some
Yeah.
ways, right? Like, is having your why just so defined,
Hmm.
right? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I hoping to gain from this? Why do I believe in this problem I'm trying to solve? Because I'll tell you now, like if you're a founder and you have this problem that you believe in, you believe you can solve, but if you're not willing to work for it, it will never be solved, right? Like I think that's why there's so many just like great business ideas out there, like great potential startups, but so many of them don't like come to fruition or don't last is because it comes down to the founder and whether they have their why like defined enough, if they're disciplined enough, and it's a tough road like we talked about. It's don't expect like entrepreneurship to be like rainbows and flowers. Like
Yeah.
I think I mean it is a fun process. I'll say I think it's the most self-fulfilling of any career type, in my opinion. I think just you're trying to solve a problem that affects other people and you're willing to put out capital, you're willing to put out time, you're willing to quit college, whatever it is. You're willing to even like ruin personal relationships because you believe in a problem so much. Like that is one of the most self-fulfilling things you can do. But if you're not willing to work for it, then like just don't even start, right? Because if everybody was willing to work for it, then all these problems would already be solved. That's the point, is there's just so many people that aren't willing to. And so, and also like competition, right? If you try starting up something, but you see competitors that are like have more momentum and they believe in it more than you do, then they're gonna take over just like that. And so I just think if you're a founder that's you know not willing to work for it, then nothing's gonna come out of it. So just kind of getting to that point of having your why well defined, right? So Brad, I think it'd be important too, just to kind of, help the founders understand, like on a more optimistic side, like what are some of the joys you've experienced so far in like the beginning stages, right? Like we talk about how hard it is, and it is hard, but I also think it's important to know like there's some really cool, fun parts of even just the beginning stages that even when you're in that valley of despair, you can still kind of have some fun in it and find the joy. So I'm curious, like what so far with first pitch, you've like have been some of the fun parts for you, or kind of those, yeah, I don't know, dopamine hits you said before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where people don't understand where it's like think of a job as kind of like a zoo cage.
Mm,
It's kind of weird, but it's like, yes, you have all your necessities, everything that is essential to you, what you need, but you can't go out and explore. You're locked in this cage. You can't do exactly what you necessarily want to do outside of that job. With entrepreneurship, those gates don't exist. It's like a sandbox. You could build whatever you want. As a kid, you could build castles or do whatever you want, right? Like, I think it's important to realize that being in that sandbox, you're able to be as creative and expansive as you want to be.
mm,
There's nothing holding you back. There's no one above you saying when you can't do something. Like this is your project. You have to set those schedule, that deadline for yourself. Um, you have to realize that, outside of like the pressure and the intensity and the stress that you feel for yourself, like there's a reason and a why for why you're doing this essentially because you started this with a purpose in the first place. So it's important to keep reigniting that passion and that understanding for your why. Again, like what you were saying like 20 minutes ago. Keep following up with that why, whether that's wanting to be a present father for your kids or being able to go travel wherever you want or do whatever whenever you want. It's important to hold that at the forefront, almost like you stamp that on your forehead, where you have to
yeah.
keep looking in the mirror and say, "This is why I'm doing this today," and keep going. It's important to like understand that and realize like this is what I want for myself. This is the future I want. Something I personally do is I have this notebook where I have my morning and my night thoughts. So my morning thoughts, I have all my like ideas, what I want to do for the day. I get all my ideas out on that paper because if you didn't know, the first 2 hours of the day is when your brain's the most active, meaning
Mm,
like you could get your ideas out the most, your shower thoughts, essentially. Um, And then at night, I like to get all my thoughts out from the day and put it on paper so I don't, sleep with that. So I get quality sleep at the end of the day. So I'm essentially just unloading. And I think
Yeah.
it's important to do that for your mental health. And being able to look back like a week before and say, okay, I was in this um, you know, status of my mind at the moment, or this is what I was doing that night and my plans for the next day. So, that personally works for me. Obviously, you guys don't have to do the same thing, but that definitely keeps me accountable and it shows me exactly where I'm at and my why and my reason for everything. Because the stress is what kind of makes or breaks you, and it's important that you could make it through that. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that. And I think just kind of taking those moments where you can enjoy it and have fun and holding on to them, right? Like I
yeah,
think for us where we've been able to go to some events that have been even just to take away like one comment that somebody's made or to go interview founders and kind of hear these really cool ideas they're starting up and to see the success they're already having, it gives you that boost of confidence and joy and knowing like, hey, like these things can work out, right? And I love your journal note, like ta journal taking
yeah,
method. I think that's really big and something I've tried to implement too is just like writing down the hard moments, but also the fun moments and like
mhm,
what's been kind of our journey so far. And I think it'd be fun to look back at this podcast too and just kind of see how we've grown from where we are now into a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, right? So it's, entrepreneurship really is a crazy journey. It really is a roller coaster, as a lot of people already know, but just taking what you can as you go is just one of the funnest things about it. And I mean, the people you meet along the way, the founders you get to work with, I think it's just there's nothing like it, honestly. It's
yeah.
really the coolest field out there, even though it's one of the hardest for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts, Brad? Things you want to share? Kind of maybe just throw out at each other as we close out this podcast.
Um, I've kind of wanted to, I think consistency and discipline is a big one too. I wanted to see what your take was on that, and what keeps you kind of consistent and disciplined, and maybe how other founders should implement that into their life as well.
Yeah, great question. I mean, we talked about the whys before, so I won't go there, even though that's a big part of it, because I mean, we already talked about that. But outside of just knowing your why and your purpose, I would say a few things that have helped me consistent is to be consistent in your business, you need a consistent lifestyle. So what that means. Like one of my favorite quotes is from, if any of you watch basketball, from SGA, Shai Alexander, former MVP, where he said like that this woman reporter asked him like what makes you so good and so like consistent. He's like, well, my life's consistent, and I really liked that quote because what if you're consistent in the mornings, right? Like when you're waking up, if you're working out and you're consistent with your studies, you're consistent with your goals, you're consistent with your habits, right? Like if someone who's consistently partying all the time, that's going to be the lifestyle they have. And if you're someone who's consistently staying away from those things, then that's the lifestyle you're going to have. So what I'm trying to get at is how consistent your lifestyle is will actually dictate how consistent your business is and like how
Mhm.
consistent your effort is with approaching entrepreneurship. And so I think that's been one of my biggest takeaways is these past couple months I've really locked down in on my habits and like being consistent with certain things and little goals. And those accumulate and amount over time to something great. And that's helped me stay grounded in our business. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway. I don't know if you have any things to touch on with that too. 'Cause I know you're a big kind of like habit guy as well, Brad. So I don't know kind of what's helped you with that too.
Um, I think like a Gantt chart has definitely helped me as well. That was something that I would talk about at Sigma Chi, our fraternity
Mhm.
a ton. Um, that's kind of something that I showed a lot of the new guys coming in, where they would always complain that they didn't have enough time.
Mhm.
Um, and I would have them go through an exercise where I would say, okay, I want you to go through your entire day today. And I want you to write down exactly what you do hour by hour, down to the minutes between each hour. And they would show me like how much free time they would have left. They would be like, oh, I accumulated like over like 2 or 3 hours uh of full free time. And I was
Mhm.
like, exactly. You could be utilizing that free time to do something. And then they would come up with an excuse where it's like, well, I want to use that as like my downtime. And I think that's kind of what separates. I'm not saying that founders shouldn't take downtime, obviously,
Yeah.
that's very important. I'm saying in those moments where you're tired and feel like you just kind of want to relax, those are the moments where you have to go the hardest.
Mhm.
Because that is truly what separates the winner. I'm not, well, yeah, the winners from the losers, essentially, where
Yeah, yeah.
that's the hill. That's the hill you got to get over. And once you could consistently show up for some time, you're gonna see you're gonna see that payoff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what a lot of these founders really need to understand. Like, yes, you are going to be tired. Yes, you are going to want to quit. But what are you doing with that free time during the day? Can you truly be honest with yourself and say you utilized most of that time to put towards your business?
Yeah. And speaking of downtime too, one thing I want to touch on is I think a lot of times people need downtime because they're so burnt out from
Hmm.
what their days are giving them. And so to go with the kind of pushing through the hard moments of the day, you also have to realize and recognize what's giving me good energy throughout the day and what's giving me
Hmm.
bad energy, right? Because and one of the books Brad actually gave me for Christmas was Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. And so we recommend any of you to read that if you're struggling with staying productive, staying consistent. But one of the biggest parts of the book is Dr. Bell talks about what gives you energy and like what are the activities that give you energy throughout your day and how can you
Hmm.
implement those throughout your day more so essentially you can actually work harder and make more use of that time that because you're right, Brad. Like people who give the excuse there's not enough time, it's just not true. Like there is always time to do more. It's just how can you have the energy to do it and push
Hmm.
through? And so, for example, a few of the tips he gives is like be out in nature more, like
Yep.
take a step to go walk and eat healthy food, like exercise, be social, like bring in positive, good energy things in your life that'll actually help you work harder
Hmm.
when you are like in that grind period of the day working on your business, right? And so I think that's kind of an important step to take too when you're kind of navigating energy.
Yeah. Yeah. He another thing he talks about a lot, which I really like, is he kind of uses the word play. Um,
Mm,
and I think people get lost in their business where they treat their business almost too much like a business.
yeah.
They treat it like a job that they hate going to every day, and they kind of forget why they wanted to do something in the first place. But I like how Ali, he talks about how you should find new ways to enjoy what you're doing and experiment and find something completely new that's outside of what you're currently working on your business and try to implement something new to show up
Mhm.
for every day. Because obviously something old that you're consistently working on for months could obviously get redundant and repetitive, and you should always find play in what you're doing so that you're still showing up how you first showed up in the first place. So I
Exactly.
think that's an
I
important
think,
one.
yeah, yeah. What I love about that, one of the tips he gives to incorporate play is ask yourself the question. So when you're getting up in the morning, you're starting your day, or you're starting you block out, let's say 2 hours to work on your business, right?
Hmm.
The question you should ask yourself when you're starting that 2 hour block of work is, what will this look like if it were to be like the most fun 2 hours of me working on my business, right? Like ask
Hmm.
that question, like, what would I have to do so that this would be super fun and enjoyable? And
Yeah.
then your ideas will come to you. It might be like incorporating music, like putting on some music in the background, like a really cool soundtrack. Maybe it's you're going outside in like in a park and you're working on your business this time, or like you said, you're incorporating some new aspect that you've been wanting to work on that gives you more joy, right? So finding ways to incorporate play into entrepreneurship because it really is a fun field. Like that's the beauty of this is that we're not limited to what we can work on.
No.
Like we really aren't. Like we can go out and do whatever we want to do. And so because of that, you can incorporate as much play as you want to this. You can have as much fun as you want with your startup, right? I think the social media aspect of it is super fun for me personally,
Hmm.
like being able to post and like meet new people, random people. It's really cool and it's really fun. And so yeah, I couldn't agree more on that for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, yeah, it's again on some like concluding notes, when you're going through imposter syndrome, it doesn't inherently mean like you're doing something wrong. And it doesn't mean like you shouldn't be doing what you're doing necessarily. Um, I feel like it's definitely a sign that you're stepping into a bigger and better version of yourself because it's scary. It's scary to imposters. I think that stems from being scared and not knowing what the next move is and moving into the unknown. Because the unknown, obviously, any unknown aspect of your life is going to be scary when you walk through it first. Um, and that's very normal. Every founder is going to go through it. Me and Alex are currently going through it, but we're still showing up every day. And if you needed a sign to show up and still keep going, this should be it.
100%. And we invite you guys to check out at Your First Pitch on Instagram, on here on YouTube, because our mission is to help people like you who are,
Mhm.
yeah, you feel that imposter syndrome, you feel that fear, that anxiety of in these first phases of starting your business. We want to show you all that it's more than possible, that you are 100% capable of achieving what you want to set out to achieve, approaching your dream. We truly are a platform that sets the stage for underdog entrepreneurs like all of you who are wanting to make their pitch to the world, who are wanting to go out and start their dream and show you guys that it's so possible.
Hmm.
You just need, take a few steps at a time. We have a lot of great resources here on our account, and more will be included as time goes on. We encourage you guys to check those out because they'll be really useful resources and courses and tips and thoughts and just even being able to see on our Instagram all these other founders who are just like you guys, are college students. They're very, very early into their, I mean, like they haven't even gotten funding yet type of early.
Hmm.
Like these guys are just starting. And to see them step up on a stage on a podium and pitch their business and go out there and just be happy and excited and be productive, consistent. Everything we talked about, they're trying these things and they know they're afraid. Like they don't feel fit to do it right now, but that's the joy of this. And so here at First Pitch, we just want all of you to know that like you are more than capable of approaching your dream. And feel free to reach out to Brad and I if you have any questions on how to go through that. Like if you don't know where to start, if you're in some obstacle right now that you're trying to overcome, like come to our page, come talk to us. Like we want to help all of you out. And we know that here at First Pitch, like you can make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. Completely agree. Also, drop some content ideas down below, for anything that you may want to be talked about or any advice that you may need. We're open to anything. We love talking. We love giving advice. We love showing the nitty gritty and our vulnerable side of actually growing this with you guys as you do watch. So, definitely let us know. But any closing thoughts besides that? Or is that
No,
it?
and I think that's great, Brad. I appreciate you taking some time for us today. And I hope all the viewers, you guys enjoyed this episode and we're able to at least get a couple takeaways from this, right? And, we're growing our platform. We've interviewed over 100 founders by this
Mhm.
point. And so we really feel like we're starting to see like what separates the founders who are truly making progress to those who aren't. And that's like where we want to come in and help you all. And so we want to provide any value we can to you guys. So again, like Brad said, comment below like what do you want to see from us? What do you want to get out of this? And we're just happy to connect. So we thank you all for being here.
Yes, sir. Episode 2 with imposter syndrome.
Go.